Live. Hey, there we go. All
Alright.
green across the board. Let's see. Restream IO, just connecting, working on Periscope.
Let me just throw out of the community.
Connected all 3 channels.
Okay, let me go grab the links that I need to grab.
I don't know if we have anybody in any of the chats on any of the platforms, but if anybody can hear us right now and you happen to be in the room, speak up, say something, just to let us know how we sound.
Give me
Doubtful
just
there's
a
anybody
moment.
there.
I will have something going on. Alright, boom. How about that?
Lovely.
And then I'm gonna throw up YouTube on this one. And Twitch on this one. And do you have you got the unified chat, right?
Yep, got it all.
Okay, how do we sound on Twitch and YouTube? Like, how do our levels sound? Am I too loud? Do I need to turn myself down? Also, there's nothing I can do about the cat. She's
No,
doing
good.
her thing. I'll just scream at her sometimes.
Sounds good on our end, I'd say.
Meow.
Sonny just gave us the okay. That's good. Thank you, Sonny.
Alright.
And she's posting us on Gab as well, so that'll be fun.
She's probably got a bigger following on Gab than I do, that's for sure. I really neglect, like, my social media presence a lot because I don't care about it.
Dude, same.
The only thing I care about it with is, like, memeing, and that's because I'm a troll at heart. Alright. So I've got Twitch on...
Right, Political? Still here?
Yeah, I'm here. What'd you say?
No, I was just checking to see if you were there.
Oh, I was like, did I miss it? Damn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you missed it. We're done.
No,
it's over. Time to go home.
It's not last week, okay, guys?
Thanks, Sonny. We appreciate it.
Alright. So, okay. So I've got you guys on my phone, full screen. And then I've got Twitch on one screen and YouTube on the other. And then I should probably make Twitch smaller, like make the chat bigger. And then put Discord on that same screen.
My PC's, I'm mobile today, man. My PC is being not used, but it's in the room where my sleeping child is, unfortunately.
Ooh. Yeah, you don't want to upset that. That could be dangerous.
Yeah, it could turn into yells and stuff in the background.
Alright. Alright, I'm ready to go. Actually, no. Hold on. I need to grab water.
Alright.
Give me a hot second. I'm just grabbing a bottle of water from my freezer.
Good old hot second.
Not a cold second. Those are fucking gay. My bad. I got a little colorful with my speech.
Alright, I returned.
Alright.
Don't panic. I'm here.
Nobody panic.
And we've got ourselves coming up to a nice, good little fade out here in just a moment. Then we'll go all quiet. We'll have our intro, and then, you know.
Yay. We should give you the. You should call yourself like the show director at this point.
Well, I mean, kind of am. I mean. All right.
Yeah, like.
We're just about ready and set to start. So let's get. Let's get quiet.
No.
Howdy again there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Need to Know podcast on this lovely, lovely Friday, August the 24th, 2018, episode 13? 13 already? Yeah, we're on episode 13.
The 13?
Yeah, it's 13. Last week was 12, now we're on 13. We got Breadbox with us, we got Political with us right now. Speak up, Political.
What up, guys?
There he is. He's here. We got everybody. We've got an awesome, jam-packed show tonight. Holy crap. Breadbox, you really went out of your way tonight.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's getting a little easier every time, so it wasn't really that hard. Plus, there were a ton of news clips to actually pick from this week, so we kind of had a plethora of topics to pick from. I actually had a hard time trimming the show down, so hopefully we don't run on for too long. Boss, technical sidebar.
Sure. What's up?
Is the screen share working?
It should be. Can you
see black screen.
Well, you see black because I'm not playing any video.
But usually I see a pre-video.
Well, I mean, I already had one queued up or something, you know, like the little, can you see that?
Yeah, and I can see my icon on the Twitch.
Okay, word, it's working.
Yep, that's kind of what we're gonna do. That was the whole thing that I had brought up a while back where we couldn't remove the,
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so.
Oh, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
As long as it's like,
figured
if it's just
out of the way in the corner. Well, yeah, we're trying to keep your personal secret identity a hidden thing.
My personal secret identity.
Personal secret identity. Alright, so let's get started tonight. What are we doing today? Breadbox, what do we got for us?
Well, let's take a look at this week's show notes. I rearranged it so we're doing Korea again this week because there is a lot going on in the Middle East. Most of it is related, so we're going to present that all as one big giant section, starting with Israel, going into Iran, and then the Yemen, Saudi Arabia. I apologize again ahead of time. Our Yemen segment is again going to be looking at the cost of war because what happened? Another airstrike. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. There's a lot of good news this week, actually, and most of it is coming from Korea, and it's not really being talked about a lot in the news. The first story actually took me by surprise, to be honest.
All right, so then we're starting off in Korea, and let's take ourselves around the world then, I guess.
Around the world.
This week, half a world away, family members separated by war and kept apart by politics were briefly reunited. Here's Ben Tracy.
This mother got to hug her son for the first time in 68 years. She is 92, he is now 71, but she still called him her boy.
It's pretty crazy, right?
They were one of 89 families reunited for the first time since the Korean War separated them nearly 7 decades ago. The peninsula was divided in two.
Pathetic bands of refugees streamed southwards along the icy road.
Families trapped on either side of the border never saw or heard from each other again. Lee Soo-nam just returned from the reunion, where he saw his older brother for the first time since 1950. How are you feeling after this experience? I lived life without knowing whether my brother was alive or dead, he said, and so for me to have met him feels like a dream. But there is also sorrow in saying goodbye. South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have agreed to bring more families together, but the North has often used these reunions as bargaining chips. 57,000 South Koreans are still hoping to meet their long-lost relatives, but with many now in their 80s and 90s, time is running out. These fortunate few had to say goodbye Wednesday. Their 12 hours together is all too brief comfort for a lifetime spent apart. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Seoul.
Such a nice... that was actually a really good story to start on, man.
Yeah, I thought, starting off on a good foot would be kind of nice. Especially since the last couple of weeks, I feel like we've kind of really missed our mark on our high note. So this week I tried to begin on a good note and end on a good note. So looking forward to that high note at the end, too.
Oh, yeah, I am too.
So we've got more stuff in the Korea section, actually. There's been some movement on the nuclear negotiations, but none of it's been publicized or really made much mention of yet, because it's not really concrete. It's all, backroom talks and deals and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and take the next look at the next clip, and then we'll see how our diplomacy is doing with North Korea.
Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Thursday, August 23rd. I'm Luke Clary. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is expected to visit Pyongyang for a fourth time in a matter of weeks. Chungwa says it's watching for whether North Korea and the U.S. plan to strike what it's called a big deal, proposing a timeline for denuclearization and declaring the end of the Korean War.
Chungwa believes that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is likely to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during his upcoming fourth visit to Pyongyang. Chungwa said that both sides have made significant progress behind closed doors over denuclearization and a security guarantee for the North Korean regime. Observers say that Pyongyang will likely present a time frame for denuclearization, while Washington will respond by agreeing to formally declare the end of the Korean War. South Korean diplomats believe that Pyongyang and Washington have reached a critical point in narrowing their differences.
향후 협상 과정에서 쟁점은 비핵화 프로세스의 구체적인 순서, 대북 안전 보장 방안, 그리고 북미 관계 정상화와 비핵화 간 관계가 될 것으로 전망됩니다.
This means that the earnest discussions of a denuclearization timeframe and the declaration of the end of the Korean War will begin when Pompeo arrives in the north. In fact, many tasks must be resolved in order to draft a denuclearization timeframe, such as the disclosure of nuclear development sites, determining the scope of nuclear inspections, and whether to include the scrapping of missile and nuclear warheads. Chungwa plans to continue preparations for the next inter-Korean summit while leaving the door open for any possibility as Mike Pompeo's visit to Pyongyang may become a turning point in the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula.
Awesome. So we're actually coming to an actual end to the Korean War finally.
That's the hope, anyway. I mean, I'll settle for denuclearization myself, but the hope is that this is going to lead to an all-out peace agreement. The neat thing about this and the difference between the past is that we're seeing a lot of behaviors that the North has normally never been willing to provide us, and so these concessions that they're allowing are very uncharacteristic as far as what I know. And even though I'm I guess I'd say relatively young, everything we see in the news from all these analysts kind of agrees with that they're not acting the same way they have in the past, even though they were trying to just get in a room with a U.S. president. That being said, we have one more neat news, and I'll see if I can shut up my cat.
It's all cool. I think it's pretty nice to hear from a cat every now and then. Let's jump into this clip.
Today, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, announced and named Stephen Biegun as the new state special representative for North Korea.
Pompeo made the announcement at the State Department just a short time ago. The Secretary of State said that he and Biegun will travel to North Korea next week. Biegun comes from Ford Motors, but he previously served in George W. Bush's administration as a national security advisor. He also held a top role at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Here's some of what he had to say.
I fully understand the importance of this job. The President, you, and the American people, and what you expect from all of us in achieving a more peaceful world. The issues are tough, and they will be tough to resolve. But the President has created an opening, and it's one that we must take by seizing every possible opportunity to realize the vision for a peaceful future for the people of North Korea.
Absolutely correct.
This begins with the final, fully verified denuclearization of North Korea as agreed by Chairman Kim Jong-un at the summit with President Trump in Singapore. I will work closely with my colleagues here at the State Department and throughout the U.S. government, as well as our allies and partners around the world, to achieve our shared goal of a safer and more peaceful world.
Well, CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood is in our Washington bureau with more. Sorry, I got to clear my throat a little bit.
so you want to go?
I'm good. I'm ready.
Right.
I'm ready for this. Kylie, what more can you tell us about Steve Biegun?
Yeah, so Steve Biegun is coming into this role about 6 months after Joe Yoon, who previously held this title as special representative to North Korea, left the job. So it's been vacant for quite a while, which is noteworthy considering it is a primary foreign policy objective of this administration to be engaged with North Korea and work towards the full denuclearization of North Korea. But he, as you said in the introduction, Steve Biegun, he comes from Ford Motors. He was a top executive there. But he's also had some experience here in Washington. He has advised members of Congress on national security issues. He was also a member of the staff of the National Security Council during President Bush. And he has some contact with members of the Trump administration. He was actually floated as one of the people who was under consideration in between national security advisors McMaster and Bolton. So before Bolton came into that job, they were thinking about Steve Biegun to fill the job.
So, Kylie, understanding why this is such an important role, what are some of the challenges facing Mr. Biegun? I would guess that the first one is that by all reports, and perhaps you can update our viewers on this, North Korea has not begun to denuclearize as the president has sometimes suggested.
That's right. It is an uphill battle that he is facing right now. And a lot of that is because there sort of is a standstill in terms of U.S.-North Korea diplomacy right now. So we saw the Singapore summit. We saw Trump meet with Kim Jong-un. And then we saw Pompeo make a visit to North Korea earlier this summer. It didn't go so well. And we actually have a report out just this week from 38 Degree North. They are an organization that monitors things that are happening in and around North Korea. And they said that there has not been any significant dismantlement of one of the missile test launch sites that Kim Jong-un apparently committed to President Trump that North Korea was going to destroy. So there hasn't been any significant activity on that site over the past few weeks, which is huge because what this administration is working towards is denuclearization. And so that's why having Steve Biegun come into this job, he's going to have a lot of work to do on the diplomacy front to try and get North Korea to commit to taking some action on denuclearization before the administration gets too frustrated.
So they will be traveling, though, to North Korea next week. What do you expect will happen with that trip?
That's right. So as I said, Pompeo was in North Korea at the beginning of July. Now he will be going back. This will be his third trip to North Korea. And we know that the administration wants some commitments from North Korea on denuclearization. So whether that is a timeline, whether that is North Korea laying out what it actually has, what its nuclear program actually looks like, so the U.S. can test that against what information we have about that program, those would be steps forward. So we don't know exactly, what is on Pompeo's agenda, but we do know that he will be looking for some specifics that he can bring back here to the U.S. that the State Department can follow up on.
All right, Kylie Atwood reporting for us from Washington. Kylie, thank you as always.
Lots of good info.
So basically, but basically, in a nutshell, diplomacy, like the head of diplomacy in North Korea for the U.S. side is changing hands. That's essentially what that newscast is all about. And they say that this guy's, been in this realm before, so hopefully he'll be okay. But I think it's interesting that Mike Pompeo is stepping away from it.
Well, yeah, so he's not going there anymore, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're saying is like he's not going to be leading the charge on the diplomacy anymore. So I don't know if it's that he, maybe they don't like him or that, which I imagine is going to get spun. But I wonder if
Trump
it's
tweeted about it. Didn't he say in one of his tweets that it just wasn't going as well as he wanted it to and he wasn't going to send Pompeo?
I didn't read that. I didn't read that, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Maybe. Regardless, it does mean things are changing up there. But I think that these signals to the south means that even if Trump isn't responsible for it, we might see Korean peace here pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Open on it.
It's a very interesting choice
Same.
for the for that diplomat or whatever you call that guy.
Waiting on the world to change. Yeah.
All right. So they were just talking about Bolton. There's a reason Bolton isn't in North Korea anymore. It's because he's in Israel.
Oh.
Throughout his 3-day visit to Israel, one issue has dominated John Bolton's discussions: Iran. It was the main subject of his final news conference before leaving the country.
Regime change in Iran is not American policy. But what we want is massive change in the regime's behavior.
The Iran deal is defective.
To that end, he said Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal and the reimposition of U.S. sanctions had begun to some extent to constrain resources available to Iran's military and spur domestic protests against the Iranian government.
It's just regular people saying they're fed up with the government. In small towns and cities, it's not the educated elite in Tehran, it's farmers and workers and small shop owners who are shouting death to the regime. Not death to America, death to the regime.
Iran's president was this week keen to demonstrate a very different narrative, that of a well-funded military, unveiling its latest fighter jet, the kind of strength, he said, that continued to deter U.S. aggression. For John Bolton's hosts this week, the immediate priority is addressing Iran's presence in Syria. He said Israel's strikes against Iranian targets there were legitimate and that Russia had offered to cooperate. Bolton said that the Russian President Vladimir Putin had told both him and President Trump that Russian and Iranian interests were not aligned inside Syria, that Russia would be entirely content for Iranian troops to pull out altogether, but that Russia couldn't do that by itself, suggesting some kind of U.S.-Russian joint effort. Last week, the U.S. Secretary of State announced the formation of an Iran action group designed to spearhead a wider-scale U.S. government effort against Tehran. One Israeli analyst says it's a sign that the U.S. would not be willing to give up its own military presence in eastern Syria, if that is what Russia is seeking.
The Americans officially have already admitted that they're trying to interdict weapons going through Syria to Iran and by Iran to Hezbollah, that they're already doing some sort of indirect action. So I think there's already a hint that America is not only staying in Syria, but it's becoming more of an Iran-focused mission.
Okay, thank you very much.
For John Bolton, his next stop is Geneva, where he's due to meet his Russian opposite number. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera, West Jerusalem.
Sorry about that.
You're okay, man. So, basically, yeah, there's everything in the Middle East right now revolves around Iran. Everything. That's pretty much what's happening, is all around the Middle East, different people are coming out and laying down their policies about Iran, and I think pretty soon we're going to see them move on some of those policies too.
I'm hoping for that. I mean, it'd be great to finally be able to say that that we might have a chance at peace there.
Yep.
Yeah, lots being pushed on Iran, that's for sure.
So we're pretty familiar on this show with the Gaza killings, like on the border and everything, gasoline kites and whatnot. What we're not familiar with is the process that happens when there's a report of a wrongful death. So I thought this was kind of an interesting video because it's recent. It's about Israel. We have an Israel news segment, and a lot of people don't understand the how these things work. So we'll go ahead and we'll watch this. It is Al Jazeera, so it's a little biased. Let's be honest. It's run by Muslims. The Al Jazeera is famous for not having a very kind dent on Israel, but I'm not, trying to play favorites or anything. Everyone's got their bias. Everyone has it. CNN hates conservatives, Fox hates liberals. Al Jazeera isn't a big fan of Jews. I mean,
well, let's see how far this goes without being anti-Semitic.
All right.
Bahajet sits with his grieving family. His 18-year-old son, Abdel Nabi, was shot dead by an Israeli soldier during a protest near the Gaza border fence on March the 30th. The Israeli army has launched an internal investigation into the incident and the shooting dead of another 15-year-old Palestinian during a similar protest in July.
My son loved life, and he loved that others loved life too. When he heard about the protests, he decided to go and see. He went peacefully. The Israeli snipers fire on protesters like they're turkeys. It's like they're playing a video game. Israel thinks that when the old die, the young will forget their rights, but they don't. We need the international community to help us in order to get our rights. They must help us have a homeland like everyone else.
This is one of the places along the border fence where protests have been held every Friday since the end of March. 167 Palestinians have been killed in those protests. And there is clear video evidence that Abdel Nabi was shot in the head whilst trying to help a fellow protester.
Oh shit.
This is Abdel Nabi running to help a man carrying a tyre,
man.
which the protesters set fire to. Dust is kicked up by bullets hitting the ground around their feet. A shot rings out and a Nabi falls to the ground. In the ambulance, the bullet wound to his head is clear. In July, the Israeli army announced that an internal military investigation into the deaths of 153 protesters was expected to find that none of the shootings violated open fire orders. Instead, it called the incidents mishaps. The conclusions of that investigation are now with the Israeli Military Advocate General, who can order further investigations if he sees fit. Gaza-based human rights organisations say an independent international investigation is needed.
Our experience is that all Israeli investigations are done to try and preempt our work before we send our findings to the UN in Geneva. What's needed is a thorough, unbiased look at what happened.
The United Nations voted to send an investigation team into Gaza in May, and it was to produce its findings by March next year. But there's no indication when the team will start work, and Israel has a long history of not cooperating with UN rights inquiries or allowing access to Gaza. A UN resolution condemned what it described as the disproportionate and indiscriminate use of force by the Israeli occupying forces against Palestinian civilians. Israel responded by saying it was being demonized.
Of course, we're in a war
Bahajad
with
says his
Canada.
son was shot for demanding a better future for millions of young Palestinians like him. He doubts anyone in the Israeli army will be punished for killing him. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera, Gaza.
Yeah, so I saw that clip a little while back.
You did?
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know, it's hard to say. I mean, you get so many reports of them lighting fires, like things on fire and sending them over the border, and there's only so much you can do when you're protecting a border, I mean, before you end up having to use lethal force.
No, I agree. I mean, and there's, once lethality is in the mix, you're going to have mistakes and you're going to have people do shit on purpose that isn't right. And I mean, you're going to have all kinds of things, So
yeah, exactly. And
once
I know
it's in
in
the
that
mix,
instance,
it's there, and it's not always going to happen in a good, like in a good way or a controlled way.
A controlled way would be a way that they would love it, of course.
Yeah.
Love it if it was controlled.
That's not the way it works. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at Iran, since it seems to be the source of everyone's ire this week. Let's start with an interesting story. Normally the Europeans, they really like Iran, right? But looks like one European company at least is protesting Iran.
Well, I think what's important to highlight here is that this isn't an ordinary route where a route would perform badly, for example, and then the airline would cut it. This is directly associated with the US sanctions onto Iran that have weakened all international demand, especially on a business travel side. Ultimately, businesses are either no longer able legally to do business with Iran, and therefore there isn't that need for travel, or if they can, they simply are not, given the added complications now that those US sanctions are back. So, as you said, British Airways have now followed in the footsteps.
Pause this for just a moment. So, I should have prefaced this clip. I forgot that he doesn't introduce himself very well. This young gentleman works for Euronews, and what he is presenting us with is the fallout from European airlines deciding to halt all flights to Iran until further notice. Because there is just not enough business in sending people to Iran, and they just don't want to do it.
Sounds like sanctions are working.
And it looks like the other companies are having to do it too.
Yep.
Of Air France and KLM, and it really is a European airline mass exodus come September.
This obviously makes it much harder for people trying to get in and out of Iran. Are we likely to see other airlines following suit, do you think?
Perhaps ultimately now, in terms of European carriers, the main European carriers that remain in Iran are the Lufthansa Group Airlines, Lufthansa and Austrian. But I think in the Middle East, we'll continue to see those Gulf carriers serve Iran, and ultimately they are the easiest and fastest way there now, because there are still people going to Iran for tourism purposes other than business.
So it's essentially going to take longer to get from Europe to Iran, because you're going to have to go via other countries. What impact do you think this is going to have on Iran's economy?
Well, Iran's economy is becoming smaller as a result of those US sanctions. And it's important to remember that while an airline such as British Airways is a private UK company, they are the flag carrier for the United Kingdom. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States, did threaten that any company doing business with Iran will be barred from the US. So it's a wonder as to whether or not there is some government input here as to do the UK, the greatest ally to the US, want to be showing the US that they are still actively serving Iran, a country that the US are inputting their sanctions on so harshly. So there is a geopolitical factor here, and of course that's ultimately diminishing the Iran and the state of the Iranian economy.
Thanks for...
Sorry, didn't catch that one. Has it changed and switched?
No problem. You die, BB?
You okay, Breadbox?
No, I just muted myself, that's all. I was making a little bit of noise and I didn't want to, interrupt. So European airlines halting their flights. Like I said, it's just kind of funny. I guess the sanctions are working.
Yeah, no, they're gonna. I mean, as soon as I figured out what he was doing, as far as the sanctions were concerned, I was like, oh man, nobody's gonna be able to do anything there. They're gonna have to pull out, or they're gonna lose their investments.
Right. So there's only really one other Iran clip. There's some Syria news that involves Iran, but this one's directly Iran. And it's funny that we have RT reporting on it because it's about Facebook and other companies banning Iranian accounts because they're related to troll farms and hacking.
Troll farms and hacking. Man, if one could become a paid troll, I mean, I don't know. That just kind of sounds like it'd be a sweet gig. But
well,
anyway.
I think you might actually enjoy this clip. It might tell you something you didn't quite expect.
All right, let's see.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Ilya Petrenko with your latest news in the world of social media. Facebook and Twitter have gotten rid of suspicious accounts spewing fakes and propaganda from Iran. The troll factory's not only after the minds of the Americans, but users all over the world. It's claimed to be run by Iran's government media.
Наташ, это ж баян. Мы кучу раз об этом сюжет делали.
Facebook already enables users to check if they've been exposed to Russian bots and trolls.
How many trolls does it take to incite a revolution?
Scores of so-called Russian bots took over Twitter and Facebook.
Some stories never seem to die. Well, this Facebook/Twitter online police raid is an actual news story this week. Yeah, you can take plenty of the earlier reports, replace the word Russia with Iran, and get pretty much identical stuff. All right, speaking of Facebook, this time it banned 625 pages traced to Iran and an unknown number of pages linked to Russia. It just wouldn't work if Russia didn't get mentioned. And the reason for this verdict is...
We removed multiple pages, groups and accounts for coordinated inauthentic behavior on Facebook and Instagram.
What kind of sin is this inauthentic behavior? Let's hear from Zuck's people.
They used similar tactics by creating networks of accounts to mislead others about who they were and what they were doing. We ban this kind of behavior because we want people to be able to trust the connections they make on Facebook.
The issue of trusting what pops out at you from the internet. It's almost as old as I am.
Ask her where we should meet.
It seems like you're chatting with somebody just like yourself.
I remember videos
Not
like
always.
this.
Even if they show a picture of themselves, it may not really be who they say they are. It could be somebody dangerous.
I'm not trying to say criminals who take advantage of online platforms shouldn't be banned or prosecuted. But, dear Facebook, the way the internet and social networks have worked for years is that users can be who they want to be online. Who said they must stick to what someone thinks is authentic behavior? What if I want to be an elf or Santa?
Oh God, is he going to justify furries?
News hound. Am I now going to be blamed for inauthentic behavior and get a red card sooner or later?
A whole virtual universe. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do. But they stay because of all the things they can be.
Well, it looks like online platforms will force us to adjust to a new reality, where a step away from your genuine behavior may lead to a ban, or some distinguished fact checkers will tell you who you should or shouldn't trust. How's this for a policy update? Facebook's just announced it will assess how good or how bad their users are at flagging fake news.
We developed a process to protect against people indiscriminately flagging news as fake and attempting to game the system. The reason we do this is to make sure that our fight against misinformation is as effective as possible.
I think it's political pressure. I think it really comes down to that. They are putting themselves in the position of mediating human relationships, which is, first of all, a very unhealthy thing to do, and it's something that they really are grossly incompetent to do. Users primarily will not know what is being done to them, and they will be manipulated in all sorts of ways. We don't know what kind of ways.
So, next time when you choose to complain about a post online, think twice. What if the fact checkers disagree? In fact, whatever you do there, better think twice.
Ilya Petrenko. Well, statistics are suggesting, meanwhile, the social media site might be losing some of its sparkle. According to a ranking.
We don't need to know that. We already know that Facebook is going down the tubes.
Oh, yeah.
That day they lost 20%. Oh my God.
Yeah.
My internet boner was very, very strong that day.
Fighting back against the storm, against the normie storms. Yeah.
Well, so did you hear that when they came out and said that they had banned all these accounts, not this time, but last time? I think it was Russian bot accounts and Iranian bot accounts that time, and they said that they actually listed a bunch of the memes that were being posted by those accounts.
Yeah.
And they were all in opposition to Donald Trump. They were throwing shade on our institutions. They're just... It's essentially just like causing a bunch of shit.
That's funny.
Just
I've been followed by a lot of Arabic accounts and a lot of Turkish accounts lately.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, but when I translate them, they're not actually like, they're people. It's whatever. All right.
Yeah, trolls be trolls, man.
Oh God, don't I know it? I as well. All right, so moving on to the next country on our list, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, two different countries. Let's talk about the Hajj. No one really understands it, at least not in the western part of the world. We just know that there's a bunch of people at a big black box. So let's watch this first video that explains it a little bit.
Oh, I love that description.
The annual Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia is underway. Able-bodied Muslims are required to make the trip once in their life. But for some Muslims from Canada, their trip is in jeopardy because of an escalating diplomatic dispute. Deborah Pata explains.
As the 2 million pilgrims begin to retrace their Prophet Muhammad's steps,
they will notice something very different this year.
Oh, no.
Women are behind the wheel for the first time after the ban on female drivers was lifted. But some of the women who advocated for the right to drive are in jail. It is their immediate release that the Canadian foreign minister demanded in a tweet earlier this month, unleashing a torrent of fury from Saudi Arabia, who accused Canada of interfering in its internal affairs. And as diplomatic tensions escalated, the Saudi kingdom cancelled all flights to Canada. For many Canadian Muslims, the journey of a lifetime has become mired in uncertainty. Fakhrizal Halim decided to risk it anyway.
Now we have no idea how we are going to get back to Canada.
Muslims are obliged to make the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in their lives. But now Canadians are cancelling a trip they've been saving for years. And those who are already there are struggling to find return flights on other routes. Deborah Patter, CBS News, London.
That's quite the sea of people, huh?
Yeah, it is.
So, kind of interesting. There's a bit of a row between Canada and Saudi Arabia. Not very normal. Oh, feminism. That's why.
Yeah, feminism. Feminism is causing the row.
Let's be honest here. 1, do I think those women should be in jail? No. 2, do I believe that we should allow countries to, solve their own internal politics? Yes, I do.
It's people kind.
Do I think that we need to respect internal politics of a country more than we need to, demand them to conform to our rules? Yes. And if the Canadians can't figure out how to rein in their foreign ambassador or their, whoever their official is that interfaces with them, then they need some help. Like Trudeau needs to put his foot down.
His red shoe
his what down?
Foot.
Yep.
You mean put his vagina down?
Yeah, right. What outfit are you gonna wear this time? Are you gonna wear your skull cap and your robes? Anyway, there's an interesting story that I saw. I just thought it was kind of neat, like something that people probably haven't seen before. I've seen this stuff because I'm a weird, weeaboo, but they actually a lot of the companies that are hosting people for the Hajj, they're buying these capsule beds from Japan, and I thought they just looked really cool, and so I thought I'd include them in this week's episode.
See. Ooh.
Yeah, so they have like it's like a pod that you go inside of. And it has its own air conditioning, and there's a mirror with a light. And there's compartments for you to store stuff.
Place for you to shit?
No. You have to leave the thing to go do that. It's basically just a place for you to sleep. Like, that's basically it.
Dude, those are nice pods, bro. The old ones that I saw, like from Japan, were just like shitty little pods for bums.
Well, this is actually from Japanese news, NHK World News, Japan.
Yeah, that could actually that actually seems like a really good solution for a lot of things. Oh, you need a place to sleep tonight? Put a quarter in the box.
Yeah, but there's probably gonorrhea all over the walls.
That was what I was thinking. But I thought it was just kind of neat that they actually were. Sunny says she can't make it in there, but I think I could fit. Like, I think I'd be okay. And I kind of get a little claustrophobic, but we'll see.
I'd probably be comfortable and try to figure out a way to astral project so that way I can do all crazy things like that. I don't know. It kind of seems like to have one of those would be fun.
Yeah. All right. Okay. One more story, and it's Yemen. And let me warn you this time. Again, children in a war zone.
Sorry about that. Got my little dog making a scene.
Hey, man. I got a cat that's in heat, so we can compete here.
All right. Name your price. Name it.
Don't do it. God damn it.
All the water you can buy.
God damn it.
God damn it.
God damn it. Oh, right. It's good to hear you laugh for the first Saturday Night Bread Box. Kind of sad that it's coming on right around about the time that we're about to play this clip.
Civilians once again have been the targets of Saudi-led coalition jets in Yemen. Iranian-backed Houthi rebels say at least 31 people, including women and children, were killed in an attack on their convoy in the western province of Hodeidah.
Dead children and women. Disgusting crime.
The victims were trying to escape a camp in Al-Kuwi, which the coalition says was being used to launch missiles.
They hit us while we were on the road.
This little boy was spared, unlike the 44 children killed 2 weeks ago in another strike. That aerial bombing on August 9th targeted a bus full of kids returning from a summer camp. They were full of joy and all smiles just hours before, happy to be returning home to their families. The charity Save the Children says Yemen is the worst place in the world to be a child. One broken-hearted father scoured the scene for evidence his child may have been spared.
I just found some of what my boy was wearing. I didn't find any of his remains. Not his finger, not his bone, not his skull.
A day later, their families were weeping over the child-sized graves in Saada province, their final resting place. Save the Children estimates an average of 140 children have been killed every day since the beginning of Saudi-led coalition strikes against Houthis.
If the United Nations will not conduct their own investigation, I believe that the Saudi-led coalition will continue.
The sensational news that American-made smart bombs were used in that strike grabbed headlines in the U.S., but just for one day.
The case against the U.S. being implicated in these murders, in these war crimes, is a very strong one.
The 2015 Saudi-led and U.S.-supported intervention in Yemen has created what the UN calls the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. Thousands of people have been killed, millions have been displaced, and 22 million Yemenis desperately need humanitarian help every day. But the war in Yemen seems to have no ending.
Our equipment there that's doing this?
Al Jazeera.
Oh yeah, it is definitely our equipment, but I don't think it's all us. I know we've taken, I don't know, actually. I haven't done the research yet, but they're trying to implicate that we've done, some harm by supporting the Saudis, but what are we supposed to do, break our alliance?
True.
Sorry. Can't do that. I thought, that last clip was a little bit somber. So I figured we'd just kind of get it all out of the way, like all at once. Because it pretty much goes downhill from here on out, guys. So we're just going to take the heavy punches first, and then we're going to go right into the crap with Trump after we get a little military update. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the second heavy punch of the night. It's going to be melancholy because it's Tucker. We love seeing Tucker. But we got to talk about the situation down in South Africa. So be prepared to get the white nationalist label there, boss.
All right. I knew that would have to come eventually.
Hope you got your armband, man. Is it on order? Did you get it from Amazon yet?
Oh, no. I haven't. I just got a stapler, though. That's not a joke or anything. I really did just get a stapler.
Dude, you sound like you're half-assing it, bro.
About the stapler or about the...
I make my own.
You make your own staples or your own stapler?
I make my own staples.
I'm talking about the armband. I make armbands, alright?
Do you use the felt for that or silk or what do you use?
I don't know. It's whatever.
Alright.
Just gold socks.
Alright, use your mother's bra, alright?
All right, let's go to South Africa.
We've got an exclusive investigation for you tonight. The president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has begun, and you may have seen this in the press, seizing land from his own citizens without compensation because they are the wrong skin color. That is literally the definition of racism. Racism is what our elites say they dislike most. Donald Trump is a racist, they say. But they paid no attention to this at all. In fact, Ramaphosa is one of Barack Obama's favorite leaders in the world. In a speech just a few weeks ago, Obama praised him He praised the racist government of South Africa and Ramaphosa by name for, quote, inspiring hope throughout the country. Does our current bureaucratic elite agree with that? Apparently they do. We called over to the State Department for comment on South Africa's land seizures which should be getting worldwide attention because they are immoral but are getting basically none. And the State Department replied with what is honestly an unbelievable statement. We're going to quote it for you at length. Here it is, quote, "We are aware of these reports and have been following this issue very closely for some time. South Africa is a strong democracy with resilient institutions, including a free press and an independent judiciary. South Africans are grappling with the difficult issue of land reform through an open process, including public hearings, broad-based consultations, and active civil society engagement. President Ramaphosa has pledged that the land reform process will follow the rule of law and its implementation will not adversely affect economic growth, agricultural production, or food security." End quote. State Department did not mention that by following the rule of law, he has changed the country's constitution to make it possible to steal land from people because they are the wrong skin color. In other words, nothing to see here, says Mike Pompeo's State Department. It's totally okay for South Africa to steal property for racist reasons because they are, quote, a strong democracy and held, quote, public hearings. Criminals, take note, find a buddy, start robbing State Department employees on their way to work. By their logic, as long as you outnumber them, they'll be okay with getting robbed because it's democracy. Marian Tupy is from South Africa. He spent a lot of time studying that country and the region. He now works at the Center for Global Liberty and Prosperity at the Cato Institute. We talked to him about this recently. Here's our conversation. I thought the whole point of the new South Africa and the reason the rest of us were excited to see it in 1994 take shape is because it rejected racial discrimination. And yet the government is now embracing it. Or am I missing something?
No. In a free and civilized society, we don't take people's stuff on the basis of the color of their skin. It was wrong when it took place under apartheid. It is wrong now. And it would be a tragedy if South Africa were to repeat the same mistakes it did in the past.
So there are really two levels here. First is the moral level, and you and I are in agreement that it's always wrong to punish people for what they look like. But second is the effect that it will have. We saw something similar to this happen in neighboring Zimbabwe. What happened when land was seized there? All starts with property rights, gentlemen.
18 years ago, the governing party of Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, was threatened with electoral loss.
Ownership.
And in order to shore up its support amongst the electorate, it decided to expropriate the farmers of Zimbabwe. What that led to, aside from horrific violence, was a total economic collapse of the country. Half a century of economic growth was wiped out in Zimbabwe as a result of this particular policy. The country experienced hyperinflation and had to abandon its currency. The country's unemployment rate was roughly 90%. Life expectancy plummeted. Child mortality increased. And, of course, the agricultural production has collapsed and hunger ensued.
So the Western media, particularly the media of the United States, has resolutely ignored this. This didn't just happen today. This has been unfolding over a period of years. The Trump administration has not weighed in on this. How should the U.S. administration respond to this human rights tragedy that we're watching unfold?
Well, the first thing that needs to be made clear is to denounce the policy. The administration needs to make it very clear that it is both immoral, because it targets a specific group of people, and I thought we were beyond that. And secondly, that it would be economically destructive. So we need to make it very clear where we stand. Secondly, South African government needs to be aware that the law, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, under which South Africa trades with the United States, requires the President of the United States to expel countries from AGOA that do not respect property rights and due process. So South African government needs to be aware that if it changes the constitution and legalizes what is essentially theft of private property, it will be kicked out of AGOA, and further negative economic consequences will ensue.
Why would former President Barack Obama, just several weeks ago, publicly praise a racist like Cyril Ramaphosa? Why would he do that?
A lot of people hope that Cyril Ramaphosa is playing some sort of a three-dimensional chess, that he's just trying to appease the far left of his political party and the far left in the country. But ultimately, he doesn't really believe in what he explicitly says he believes. Cyril Ramaphosa has said that by expropriating the farmland, the privately owned farmland in South Africa, he's going to create the Garden of Eden in South Africa. He's going to turn South Africa into hell, just like Zimbabwe is a complete catastrophe.
3D
and so Barack
chess.
Obama should pick up the phone, call Cyril Ramaphosa, and tell him that if he wants to continue to enjoy the good press he's been having, he needs to reverse policy that he is set on and behave in accordance with normal rules that define and characterize free countries.
Yeah, I wish he'd said that in public when he had the chance, but of course he didn't, being a coward. Marion, thank you very much for your deep knowledge on this subject. I appreciate it.
3D chess.
Barack Obama wants to bring to Africa as a human right to eat the popo.
Yes.
He straight up called Barack Obama a coward.
Oh,
wow.
3D chess.
You guys remember the African preacher, right? This has been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. But the other thing to remember is that we just made our argument for, their own laws within their own country. It is what it is. It's a fucking atrocity, though, is what it is.
Absolutely.
That being said, they're also doing gun confiscations and shit over there, too.
Oh, they're doing every terrible thing. Yeah, I'm still stuck on 3D chess, because I mean, how big was 4D, 5D underwater chess like a theme during the 2016 presidential election, and now they're lowering themselves.
It's 360-degree universal quantum leap backgammon.
What the fuck is that? I've never heard of that.
Backgammon?
No, that fucking crazy kind you just said.
Oh, yeah, that's the special kind. Only Donald Trump plays that.
Just kidding.
I'm sorry, I'm just having too much fun with that comment.
All right. So our next clip is actually a little bit of news from the Pentagon that we should probably be aware of.
All right, on to some military stuff. Let's see what's up.
Bill, this report required by Congress paints in stark terms from the Pentagon's perspective how the Chinese are using an expanded military to consolidate its influence around the world. Most stark is the warning that, quote, over the last 3 years, the PLA, People's Liberation Army, has rapidly expanded its overwater bomber operating areas, gaining experience in critical maritime regions and likely training for strikes against U.S. and allied targets. Some of those strategic bombers landed for the first time in May on the disputed Woody Islands in the South China Sea, a dramatic expansion of Chinese military claims in the oil-rich South China Sea. The deployment of nuclear-capable bombers would provide China a nuclear triad for the first time, according to the Pentagon report. The reorganization of the Chinese army into smaller brigades and Marine units also captured the attention of the Pentagon, as did the so-called Belt and Road Initiative, which includes an expansion of trade routes around the world. For the first time, China signed leases for ports which could be used for a military purpose in Sri Lanka, for example, as well as leased ports in Greece and Darwin, Australia. In August 2017, China officially opened its first overseas military base in Djibouti, deploying a company of Marines and equipment to the base, which is conveniently located just next to the U.S. drone base in the Horn of Africa.
Djibouti.
The report also issued a warning about ongoing cyber attacks emanating from China. Quote, computer systems around the world, including those owned by the U.S. government, continued to be targeted by China-based intrusions through 2017. The Chinese Foreign Ministry responded to the report, accusing the U.S. of displaying a Cold War mentality.
Wow.
Bill?
Jennifer Griffin, thank you.
What have we constantly talked about with regards to China on this show? They're constantly doing corporate espionage, and their corporations are mostly government controlled.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's communism.
Well, so about that South China Sea thing, they started doing all this stuff, right? And they're trying to push out. Well, so I've been kind of mentioning the Essex and the other ships. I don't know the names of the other ships that went with it, but they're right down there in the South China Sea. Trump just sent our biggest, baddest shit. He loaded them up with as many F-35s and all kinds of shit as he possibly could, and sent them down there as fast as he possibly could. They were supposed to stop for a week in Hawaii. And they just had to miss Hawaii and just all of a sudden ended up in the South China Sea within like a few days after that. So they booked ass down there, and then a Marine somehow fell off of the ship. That's how we even found out where they were at the time. And so they're just parked down there, just kicking it, just letting China know, hey, don't fuck with the South China Sea.
I didn't know about almost any of that. So, damn, thanks, Political.
There's another development down there, too, that's kind of related. Rodrigo Duarte, the leader of Puerto Rico? No, the Philippines.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Philippines, yeah.
It's okay,
the
man.
president of the Philippines. He's looking at possibly buying weapons from the U.S.
Well, they're, I mean, honestly, if it allows the South China Sea to maintain, their open shit, because so there's this I wish I had a screenshot for you, but there's this channel that goes right through the Philippines, coming around that the end of that I don't know, peninsula or whatever, and it's the quickest route through there, and so they're gonna want to keep it open, and that's right where that Essex is sitting, right in there.
Yeah, they that's gonna be interesting. So, a little bit of quick South China Sea talk. Now we can move on to U.S. politics. And boy, oh boy, is U.S. politics depressing for our side this week. Sort of.
Depends on how you look at it.
We're not losing. We're not completely winning either. I mean, it's not like Trump got, convicted of anything.
All right, so you want to set us up?
Well, I mean, he's not even a criminal target in the investigation.
Exactly. So, the reason it's kind of depressing is because they're really making a mountain out of a molehill, let's be real. So,
yeah,
I thought the way we would set this up is we would first hear from the president himself, because let the man speak for himself. And then we go ahead and look at some of these segments where they talked about this particular interview and the Michael Cohen situation.
Nice.
Let's take a look.
All right. Yesterday was a big news day, and Ainsley was fortunate enough to actually be at the White House to talk to the president.
That's right. We went down there and sat outside of the Rose Garden and talked to him about the news of the day, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, Jeff Sessions. We talked about a lot of things, wide-ranging issues. Here is, and we're going to air the entire thing in its entirety, but here's the president talking about Cohen, Manafort, and Jeff Sessions. Mr. President, thank you so much for sitting down with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We had an incredible rally last night in West Virginia. It was beautiful, a tremendous crowd, and I think we're going to win a big race over there. And I guess you could say that our numbers in winning, whether it's for the Senate or for Congress or for governor, has been very good.
How is our country's first lady doing, and how are your children?
She's doing great. She's a terrific woman. She goes through a lot with all this publicity, but she's a terrific woman. She's doing great.
How do you handle all of that?
Well, it's part of my life. I guess my whole life has been this way. Somebody said, oh, gee, this is always such controversy. And I don't know, I've always had controversy in my life, and I've always succeeded. I've always won. I've always won. It was controversial when I ran, and I won. And now the country is doing better than it's ever done. We have the best economy we've ever had in the history of our country. And more jobs today, literally today, we have more jobs, more people working in the United States than ever before in the history of our country. Black unemployment, Asian unemployment, women unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, historic lows. It's been an amazing thing. And, unfortunately, the media never covers that. They don't like to cover that kind of thing. They like to cover nonsense.
Right.
But it's one of those things.
Well, speaking of yesterday, huge news day. There's a lot breaking today as well. Michael Cohen, tell me about your relationship with him.
Well, he was a lawyer for me for one of many. You know, they always say the lawyer, and then they like to add the fixer. Well, I don't know if he was a fixer. I don't know where that term came from, but he's been a lawyer for me. Didn't do big deals, did small deals. Not somebody that was with me that much. You know, they make it sound like I didn't live without him. I understood Michael Cohen very well. What turned out he wasn't a very good lawyer, frankly. But he was somebody that was probably with me for about 10 years. And I would see him sometimes. But when I had deals and big deals, I had outside lawyers, and I have a lot of inside lawyers, too, in addition to Michael. I always found him to be a nice guy.
He said one story, said you didn't know anything about the payments.
No.
And now he's saying that you directed him to make these payments. Did you direct him to make these payments?
He made the deal. He made the deals. And, by the way, he pled to 2 counts that aren't a crime, which nobody understands. I watched a number of shows. Sometimes you get some pretty good information by watching shows. Those 2 counts aren't even a crime. They weren't campaign finance.
Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew. Later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did, and they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me, and I tweeted about it. You know, I don't know if you know, but I tweeted about the payments. But they didn't come out of campaign. In fact, my first question when I heard about it was, did they come out of the campaign? Because that could be a little dicey. And they didn't come out of the campaign, and that's big. But they weren't. It's not even a campaign violation. If you look at President Obama, he had a massive campaign violation, but he had a different attorney general, and they viewed it a lot differently. You know, we have somebody that they seem to like to go after a lot of Republicans, but he settled his very easily. In fact, I put that out fairly recently. So Obama had it. Other people have it. Almost everybody that runs for office has campaign violations.
Trump,
but what Michael Cohen pled to weren't even
that treadmill,
campaign related. They weren't crimes.
Why is he doing this?
Because he made a great deal. Because he was in another business, totally unrelated.
I wonder if that's
to
the
me,
armor.
where I guess there was fraud involved and loans and taxi cabs and all sorts of things. Nothing to do with me, because he had an outside business. He worked for me. You could really say it was more or less part-time. He had other businesses. He had other clients. I'm not his only client. And
at least
Michael
it's not
Cohen
a back
had,
but you're
I
freaking
guess, a
right.
taxi business, and somebody reported him for some things in his taxi business.
Hey, I got no room to talk.
That's how it started. And they put the 2 counts of campaign violations in there. But a lot of lawyers on television, and also lawyers that I have, say that they're not even crimes.
If you're saying the payments, if they're not illegal, then why would he use that?
Hang on, I just had to pause that because I had to figure out where those sirens were coming from.
Information for a plea deal.
Because he makes a better deal when he uses me, like everybody else. And one of the reasons I respect Paul Manafort so much
for Sonny
is he
we're
went
not
through
fat
that
shaming.
trial.
We
You know,
want
they
our
make up
president to be around
stories.
for 8
People
years.
make up stories. This whole thing about flipping, they call
I'm
it.
fat
I know
anyway,
all
so
about
like,
flipping.
whatever.
For 30, 40 years I've been watching flippers. Everything's wonderful, and then they get 10 years in jail, and they flip on whoever the next highest one is, or as high as you can go. It almost ought to be outlawed. It's not fair, because if somebody's going to spend 5 years like Michael Cohen, or 10 years or 15 years in jail because of a taxi cab industry, because he defrauded some bank, the last 2 were the tiny ones. You know, campaign violations are considered not a big deal, frankly. But if somebody defrauded a bank and he's going to get 10 years in jail or 20 years in jail, but if you can say something bad about Donald Trump and you'll go down to 2 years or 3 years, which is the deal he made, in all fairness to him, most people are going to do that. And I've seen it many times. I've had many friends involved in this stuff. It's called flipping, and it almost ought to be illegal. You get 10 years in jail, but if you say bad things about somebody, in other words, make up stories, if you don't know, make up stories, they just make up lies. Alan Dershowitz said, compose, right? They make up lies. I've seen it many times. They make up things, and now they go from 10 years to they're a national hero. They have a statue erected in their honor. It's not a fair thing, but that's why he did it. He made a very good deal. I mean, for what he did. But I'll tell you that somebody made a better deal. Awand. the IT guy for Schultz, Congresswoman Schultz. He had all the information on Democrats. He had all the information on everybody. He went to jail holding the hands of the Justice Department and the FBI. They sat there together. They were smiling and laughing. And he got nothing. And he stole money. And he had more information on corruption of the Democrats than anybody. And they don't even have his computers and his servers. They just gave him nothing. You saw that. It was on your show. They gave him nothing. Nothing.
Double standard?
Nothing. Double standard.
You lose.
I mean, he was worse than anybody.
Day, sir.
In my opinion. He got nothing. He's a Democrat. He got nothing. The reason he got nothing because the Dems are very strong in the Justice Department. I put an attorney general that never took control of the Justice Department, Jeff Sessions, never took control of the Justice Department. And it's a sort of an incredible thing. We have this country going so well. Mike Pompeo is doing incredibly. All of my people, they're doing incredibly. But the whole thing with going on with Justice and FBI, when you see Strzok and his lover Lisa Page, when you see Comey with all the lies that he's told, when you see Mueller with the conflicts, he's so conflicted. Comey's his best friend. He had a really nasty business transaction with me, which he never reported. I've been talking about he never reports it. I mean, you look at the bad things. He wanted the FBI job that Christopher Wray has. Now, Christopher Wray was recommended by Rosenstein. The FBI, I'll tell you what, if you took a poll in the FBI, I guarantee you one thing, I'd do very well.
Are you considering pardoning Paul Manafort?
I have great respect for what he's done in terms of what he's gone through. You know, he worked for Ronald Reagan for years. He worked for Bob Dole.
Either foot.
He worked, I guess his firm worked for McCain. He worked for many, many people, many, many years. And I would say what he did, some of the charges they threw against him, every consultant, every lobbyist in Washington probably does. If you look at Hillary Clinton's person, you take a look at the people that worked for Hillary Clinton. I mean, look at the crimes that Clinton did with the emails, and she deletes 33,000 emails after she gets a subpoena from Congress. And this Justice Department does nothing about it.
All of it out.
And all of the other crimes that they've done. And they don't. Look at Podesta.
The absolute
was
madman.
Supposed to be Manafort on steroids. They made him close up his firm. He was going to be indicted the next day, we heard. Never happened. Instead, they would go after Manafort. So, look, I didn't know Manafort well. He wasn't with the campaign long. They got him on things totally unrelated to the campaign. And by the way, they got Cohn on totally unrelated to the campaign. I'm not involved. I wasn't charged with anything. You know, people don't like to say that, but I wasn't charged. But when you look at the corruption on the other side, and they refuse to look at anything. When you don't look at Strzok, where he said basically we're going to take out the president, the insurance policy and everything else. You look at Lisa Page, the two lovers back and forth with these horrible texts. You look at the kind of talk going on about, it's really subversion. And our Justice Department doesn't do anything about it. People would say, oh, but you appointed Jeff Sessions. I said, I did. But I really feel as long as this is going out, I don't have to do this, but I will stay uninvolved, and maybe that's the best thing to do.
Mr. President, a lot of people are frustrated. A lot of your supporters are frustrated with the DOJ, with Jeff Sessions. There are rumors that you're going to fire him after the midterms and Rosenstein. They also want these documents. They're wondering if you will use your power to get these documents released.
At the right time, I think I'm going to have to do the documents. I didn't want to, but I think I'm going to have to. There's such corruption. Before I got here, it's from before I got here. It's the Obama administration. And you look at what happened. They surveilled my campaign. It's very simple. The Pfizer report, the phony fake.
Rosenstein signed the last Pfizer report.
It bothers me. It's always bothered me.
Will you fire him? Will you fire Sessions?
Well, I'll tell you what. As I've said, I wanted to stay uninvolved. But when everybody sees what's going on in the Justice Department, I always put justice now with quotes, it's a very, very sad day. Jeff Sessions recused himself, which he shouldn't have done, or he should have told me. Even my enemies say that Jeff Sessions should have told you that he was going to recuse himself, and then you wouldn't have put him in. He took the job, and then he said, I'm going to recuse myself. I said, what kind of a man is this? And by the way, he was on the campaign. You know, the only reason I gave him the job because I felt loyalty. He was an original supporter. He was on the campaign. He knows there was no collusion. And what's come out of Manafort? No collusion. What's come out of Michael Cohen? No collusion. This is stuff that they got. How about with Michael Cohen, in all fairness to him, they raid his office at 6 o'clock in the morning? And how about with Manafort? They raid his home at like 5 in the morning, I think on a weekend, and his wife is in bed and they go in with guns?
Oof. That was the end of that clip.
That's a rough morning, huh?
Yeah. Damn, he just laid everything out there, man.
You know, it's interesting he mentioned that Podesta was supposed to be indicted.
Yeah. That is pretty interesting. Why so political?
I don't know, just somebody else was talking about that a while back.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. So that's the interview that Trump did, basically. There's another second half to it, but I didn't want to watch the whole damn thing. So let's go ahead and watch this next video where they basically gloat about Cohen cooperating with Mueller.
All right, let's watch this gloat fest coming up right now.
Mueller?
Michael Cohen is tonight signaling he's ready to talk to the special counsel.
Whatever
and not just about those payments.
For a while, I thought it was Sturzak. I was like, oh, okay, Sturzak. Then everybody said Strzok, and then it became,
Michael Cohen's attorney is now suggesting Cohen is ready to talk about something else. Here's ABC's chief national affairs correspondent Tom Yamas tonight.
Leaving court, Michael Cohen was silent.
Michael, what's your message to the president? Michael, what's your message to the president?
Doing all the talking today, his lawyer Lanny Davis, and he was asked if his client is ready to tell all to special counsel Robert Mueller.
Yes, 100%.
Michael Cohen claims that just before the election, President Trump himself directed an effort to silence 2 women who claimed to have had affairs with him. Prosecutors say they have a mountain of evidence about the hush money scheme, documents, seized electronic devices, and audio recordings made by Cohen. Also, text messages,
was the mountain made by ants?
Emails. All of this on top of witness testimony. Cohen's lawyer says his client is ready to talk, and not just about payoffs, but about Russian hacking and what President Trump might have known.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Cohen's attorney now suggesting his client has information about whether Donald Trump knew in advance about the Russian hacking when Democrats' emails were later distributed by WikiLeaks.
I can tell you that Mr. Cohen has knowledge on certain subjects that should be of interest to the special counsel. Knowledge about the computer crime of hacking and whether or not Mr. Trump knew ahead of time about that crime and even cheered it on.
Cohen has pleaded guilty to 8 felony charges, but there was no agreement to cooperate with the federal government. He's hoping that sharing information with investigators now will help reduce his prison sentence.
Would Michael Cohen accept a presidential pardon? Does he want one?
He will not and does not want anything from Donald Trump. After working for him all of those years, he came to the recognition that Donald Trump is a president unsuitable to have that office.
So let's get to Tom Yamas with us again tonight. And Tom, Michael Cohen is scheduled to be sentenced on December 12th. It would appear tonight he's very eager to talk with both state and federal investigators. And you have news this evening about a new subpoena.
That's right, a new development there, David. This has to do with the Donald J. Trump Foundation. You'll remember that was the president's charitable organization. In June, they were sued by the New York Attorney General, accused of self-dealing and illegally coordinating with the Trump campaign. According to the New York Times, Michael Cohen received that subpoena today, and he called state investigators back, David, asking them when they were ready to talk. David?
Tom Yamas with us again tonight. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Man, look at that.
Appreciate that, Tom.
What's he gonna learn? What's he got? Ooh, what can we find out from this guy? What can we bleed from him? I mean, it's just, oh my god.
All right. So we got a few clips left. So what we're gonna do is I've got a clip with Jason Chaffetz, the former chairman of the House Oversight Committee, the much lauded Jason Chaffetz, and then we're gonna do a clip about Paul Manafort, and then we're gonna go into the high note.
jumping
Nice.
back in.
The law says if you give money to influence an election beyond the campaign finance limits, that's a felony. And Michael Cohen, with the prosecutors, stood up under oath in federal court and admitted to that crime.
And that was Lanny Davis, Michael Cohen's attorney, on our air just last hour after his client, who is known as Trump's fixer, pleaded guilty to felonies related to the 2016 election while also implicating the president. As for Paul Manafort, Trump's one-time campaign chair, was found guilty of tax evasion and financial fraud. Let's bring back Jason Chaffetz.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, thank you for coming back. So you kind of got to bring this all together for us. That was Lanny Davis. We had him on in the last hour. Tell us his side of the story, and obviously he's his client, Michael Cohen. Your thoughts this morning? It's been a big 24 hours.
Well, on the Paul Manafort, I don't think that has anything to do with Donald Trump, certainly nothing to do with the election. If somebody has committed a crime and done something wrong, then they should be convicted and pay the price for that. But it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. And to have the special counsel spending time on that seemed odd at best. I think they're doing that to try to get something out of him to implicate. I mean, they're going after Donald Trump. I think the Cohen situation is much more serious given the proximity and length of time in service. The president obviously had some really bad personnel decisions when he brought in a guy who's appears to be as slimy as this guy is. But I do think there's some long-term problems. But Lanny Davis's presence here is a huge question mark. This is somebody with close proximity with Hillary Clinton and the Democratic machine. It really makes you wonder, why is Lanny Davis sitting in the middle of this? And I think it's a huge stretch and a leap for him to suggest.
In fact, I went on to ask him, what changed? Considering his client once said he would take a bullet for President Trump, for Donald Trump, why all of a sudden are we seeing this change? And his response was, well, that's a good question. And he referred back to Helsinki and that he had a change of heart. It was out of patriotism that he came.
I think it had to do more with his own personal finances and the financial troubles that he was running into. But why is Lanny Davis, all the attorneys in the world, right? There's no shortage of attorneys. You go out and pick Hillary Clinton's attorney. I think that's highly suspicious. And to suggest, let's pretend that those payments were real. There are lots of reasons that you can do that.
On social media
to say it suggests that it was going to sway the
Cohen.
election. It wasn't going to sway the election. Absolutely not.
Here's more from Lanny Davis last hour.
No question that he's committed a federal crime, and whether he can be indicted has never been decided. I see no quotation from Mr. Mueller. I see attribution anonymously, but there were two opinions of the Office of Legal Counsel many years ago. The Supreme Court has never ruled. I think there is a traditional view that you don't indict sitting presidents, but that's an unsettled question.
Shoehorn a conviction
on a campaign finance violation? I mean, come on. First of all, I don't believe that it is a campaign violation. On the surface, I don't think that makes any sense. And that it's about the weakest thing we could ever come up with on Donald Trump. Barack Obama had problems with this. Hillary Clinton's had trouble with this.
The whole thing is just
every other
and like a PP dossier, wasn't it that? Right?
That's why they have FEC.
We're kind of far away from all that.
This is going to rise to the level of impeachment and, all these legal problems for the president. It's going to be a distraction, but it's not.
Just before Lanny Davis, we had Michael Caputo on, who was Donald Trump's campaign advisor for a short period, 7 months or so, on the campaign. And he gave his side of the story, having known Michael Cohen personally for 5 years. Listen.
It's very interesting how just in February, Michael Cohen was saying for all the world to hear that this was not a campaign contribution or campaign expenditure, that it was on the up and up. And as soon as he got jammed up in crimes that had nothing at all to do with the president, he seems to have changed his tune. And I'm pretty sure that was non-negotiable.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely right. He had this, evidently, Mr. Cohen had huge financial problems. All of a sudden, the special prosecutor is getting there. You're going to maybe indict the person. You're going to look at mounds of legal bills. And then all comes along Lanny Davis, Hillary Clinton's person. And how convenient that the two merge and make this Reese's Peanut Butter Cup that is supposed to be the end-all, be-all. Huge credibility problems
my God, you said
this,
chocolate
but it is a serious situation for the president, Rudy Giuliani, and his legal team.
Fascinating stuff. Things are changing by the minute here. Thank you very much.
I miss him on the oversight committee.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he was fun, wasn't he? You know, I'm not going to lie, though. I like Jim Jordan better.
I really do miss him on the Oversight Committee, man. He was fun.
He talked so much shit. He was literally just like a shit talker to the fucking retards.
Well, not just that, but he did a really good job. Like, all his shit was squared away. He didn't break with the rules or anything. You know, he didn't let people get out of hand.
Well, that's what makes a good shit talker, because he was right.
Ones who were able to follow the rules, yeah.
All right, so Paul Manafort found guilty on 8 counts, mistrial declared on 10.
Another former Trump ally, Paul Manafort, found guilty of 8 counts of bank and tax fraud, making him the first campaign associate of President Trump found guilty by a jury as part of Mueller's special counsel probe into Russian collusion.
Sorry, that's probably me.
You may have heard that the jury reached a verdict on only 8 of the 18 counts. On 10 of those counts, they did not reach a verdict. Mr. Manafort is disappointed of not getting acquittals all the way through or a complete hung jury on all counts. However, he would like to thank Judge Ellis for granting him a fair trial, thank the jury for their very long and hard-fought deliberations. He is evaluating all of his options at this point.
The president landing in West Virginia moments ago saying on camera he feels bad for Paul Manafort. We'll have to wait and see if the government decides to retry those 10 counts that were decided to be a mistrial.
There was someone who came out and did an interview. I forget what her name was, but she's all over the place.
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
All right, so are you ready for the high note? We've had a lot of depressing stories, some slow stuff here. Donald Trump was getting extra scrutiny. I mean, he had to go to Fox and Friends just to kind of combat some disinfo. So I'm ready for you know, something, some maybe like some retribution, something good, and like something funny.
Like flashbangs thrown at Antifa.
I don't think so. I don't think he means that.
I said like flashbangs at Antifa.
No, I mean something of a more financial nature.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know if you've heard of this indie film, Billionaire Boys Club. No. After Kevin Spacey was in it. I had not heard of it either. Came in today, and the headline is about the money that it took in during its release this week. Now, I made a mistake.
Yeah, you
of
thought
putting
it
an
was
M behind
million.
it, as in million.
Here's why I'm so confident in saying that you probably haven't heard of it, because it took in $126.
Not million.
Dollars opening day.
One theater.
Kind of all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Diverting investments to pay expenses.
They must have
Wait, you knew? I'm from Wall Street. Do you think people really get rich playing by the rules?
Where's the money? Is this real?
Ron had a flight to town.
Oh my God!
Let's bring in CNN senior media correspondent and host of Reliable Sources, Brian Stelter.
What's his ass? Fucking $126.
Now, it was only in 10 cities, not including New York and LA, from what I understand. But
10 cities.
Surely they expected more than this.
Yeah, this means about, let's do the math, about a dozen people saw this movie. In all the cities where it was available, 10 different markets, a dozen people went to see it on the first day. I think, honestly, and I don't mean this as a joke, I think this means the family members of the cast and crew were the ones that went to see the movie. You think about this. This is a really interesting issue in the Me Too moment that we are all in. Kevin Spacey is a supporting actor in this movie that was filmed almost 3 years ago. It's an ensemble crime drama. You can see the trailer here. Has lots of other stars like Billy Lord and Emma Roberts, who are characters in this film. Kevin Spacey is a supporting actor, but there was no way to really take him out of this movie. So they taped this movie like 3 years ago. And then, about a year ago, Spacey was accused of sexual assault by a number of men, some of whom were on the House of Cards set on that Netflix show. So, what do? If you're the makers of this movie, it's sitting on the shelf, you've wanted to release it, now what do? Do you go ahead? Do you put it in theaters or not? Ultimately, they decided to have a very small release of this movie because they said they wanted the cast and the crew and the families to be able to see it. And you can see the impact here. It's remarkable. The Hollywood trade publications are having a field day with this because of just how abysmally unsuccessful it was this weekend at the box office.
But honestly, I mean, some people might not have known that it was
Look
out there.
at how happy Stelter is that he actually gets to report on news that isn't Russia.
But how do you promote a movie?
Well,
Maybe with him? Is that part of
You'd
it?
expect more than 12 people knew the movie was coming.
Right. Right, exactly. And it's because of this taint from Spacey, from the allegations against him.
Yeah.
It is incredible to think of what a difference a year makes. A year ago, we weren't even talking about Harvey Weinstein or Kevin Spacey. Nowadays, Hollywood has changed forever as a result.
Certainly has. Brian Stelter, thank you very much.
Big think. $126.
Dude, that is like Shia LaBeouf bad.
That is the price of hiring a sex offender, just saying.
Suddenly I feel better about my job and how much I make.
It is interesting though that the movie was made before that the realization came out that he did that, and then it didn't get released because he did that. Like, they didn't know that was what they were in for when they made the movie. By the time it was done, like, they hadn't even found out yet.
It's
I
like,
bet the
okay,
movie sucks.
It's like, okay, here's some dude's passion project, some director, writer, whatever's passion project or something. He gets the actor he wants in it, and then everything just crashes all around him, and his dream is dead. That's what I took from that.
Pedophiles.
Pretty much. Hey, since we're here and we got the stream and we got people, in it, I was just kind of wondering, do you guys prefer having the Discord chat as the main chat room that's in the video feed, or should we move that all together combined chat into that middle one? Because I think we might move the Restream chat to the main chat.
Yeah, that sounds.
The Discord doesn't move much, but the platform chats actually move quite a bit, and if they can see each other, they can interact.
Yeah, allow it to where you guys can see each other a little bit better. Yeah, I'm down for that. I think they'd be down.
And then we can just drag pictures in, as we need to.
I mean, if we need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not that big a deal.
Yeah, we got a good thing going.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. And then we can figure something else out to put down in that corner. Also, another business thing, we are still looking for a new graphic artist.
Yeah, so if anybody out there has some good Photoshop talents, some good Illustrator talents or something like that and would like to help us out, join us on the Discord, message one of us, hit us up on Twitter or whatever, say, hey, want to be involved? We'll listen to you. We're here, we'll yeah.
We don't have money, though. Don't ask us for money, because we don't have money. We don't make money.
We're broke as shit!
Yep.
We have nothing! No money! We're broke!
But, oh, I was going to say one other thing. Oh, yeah, another thing is we do have a promo team, kind of. It's a one-woman promo team. Sunny's been doing most of it all for us. But we're always down to have people basically just, retweet, spread the link, let people know what's up, and we'll give you a different color name in the Discord. That's a good incentive, right? All right. Oh, and we'll give you access to the green room, which is where we do the episode planning and kind of talking about what we're going to do with the show behind the scenes. So that's my blurb. I got my news out for the week. I think I'm set. I think I can let them stew in the weirdness of reality for the rest of the week.
Reality has become weirder.
That's what, dude, bro, so true. It's funny as shit, though. So much popcorn, I can't eat it all, but I'm trying really hard. I'm getting really fat on popcorn, bro.
Oh, man, I'm getting fat on more than popcorn. I'm getting fat on teriyaki, which I'm going to have teriyaki.
Oh, man, I must have a shit metabolism then, because I'm as thin as a twig.
Can I have it?
Part of it, if I could figure out how to, chop it out, I guess.
You just gotta send it over the TCP/IP. It'll be all good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll do that. I'll send it to you in an email.
3D print that shit, dude.
No. I'll just send him the Blender files. He can 3D print it himself on his own end.
Anyway, you can find our Discord at irc.qclearancearchive.net. I'm solid_MAGA on Twitter, and then boss, if you want to go, and then political.
I am General_Tweed on Twitter as well.
Oh my god, mine's annoying. I'm Poly_Tech_AL_87 on
Luckily,
Twitter.
it's under the. Luckily, it's in the video feed, so people can just grab it.
Yeah, your watch right there. Just follow us. All right, so
you really did yourself a disservice.
Me, the fucking handle? Oh, dude! Every time I have to type that shit, I fucking get so mad.
You might be able to change that, man. I don't know.
All right, take us out, boss.
All right, we're taking it out. Oh, we've got this music. We had a good thing. Where was I? Right. We're here. We're at the end.
Do it.
Oh, thank everybody for joining us. What do you mean? Of course. What do you mean? I almost forgot. I haven't forgotten yet.
Dude.
Come on, man. We're not at that point yet. We're almost there, but we'll get there in just a moment. Just like Breadbox is what I just said, I want to say thanks to Deplorable Sunny, to Sunny out there for helping us out. She's been helping us with promotion, helping us with as being a chat moderator. I think also Bella's helping out with that, if I recall correctly. Somebody remind me if I do. Hopefully I am. Breadbox, of course, thank you for everything that you do for this entire podcast. You put together all this stuff. You're a brilliant news director. I freaking appreciate it so much. Political, your insight is amazing and all this stuff as well. You guys freaking
I produce,
rock.
You direct.
Yeah, you produce, I direct. Wait, am I directing or am what are we doing? I thought you were the news director.
You direct for the most part. Well, yeah, but you're right there operating the board, man. I don't have control of the OBS or nothing. That's all you, man.
Yeah, that's production.
I just sit here and smoke and talk.
I don't know. Oh, we have fun here. Oh, we have fun. All right, you guys. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all have a good one. And of course, buy water.
Fuck, he did it. Like early, I couldn't stop him.
I beat you.
You hella did. You fucking preemptively struck.
I broke you and I beat you. No, I'm kidding. All right, y'all have fun, guys. We'll see y'all next week.